Welcome to another episode of Kicking in the Second Half, KISH YZ. We're bringing to y'all another KISH debate. So you know what it is. You know who I got on the other side. I'm D, and that's Hugh over there. What up, Hugh?
Hey, how's everybody doing?
Hey, what are you rocking over there? What's in the
Man,
background?
man, I ain't got no Brooklyn gear, so I'm just repping my Steph Curry jersey. But yeah, I got the big three for Brooklyn back in there. Yeah, sorry, Harden, it cropped you out a little bit. I didn't know how to fix that, so we just rolling with it.
That's all right. That's your least favorite Brooklyn net player there anyway. So yeah, tonight's episode, it's basically gonna be about the Nets and the Lakers. Hugh, you want to just start it off? You want me to start it off?
Uh, yeah, I can start it. I can start it. First talking point. Uh, we one thing we want to debate on is which team is hurting worse currently, the Los Angeles Lakers or the Brooklyn Nets. Um, I said that it's obvious that the Lakers are hurting worse, in my opinion. I wrote down a good bit of stats for this one, so I got that the stats to back me up. All right,
Of
so
course
since
you have the
AD,
stats.
hey, I went more stats than normal for this one, so it took me so long to get ready for it.
We ain't got time to
Without
listen to that. So, I mean, obviously, with you picking the Lakers, that means I picked the Nets for everybody listening out there. So, Nets versus Lakers. Who's hurting worse? I got the Nets. You got the Lakers.
okay, so without Anthony Davis this season, the Lakers are 15-13. So a little 2 games over 500. Without LeBron so far, he's been out a total of 10 games. The Lakers are 4-6. So not doing well without those guys. Even without AD, I mean, a team that caliber, you expect them to be have a better record than that with him going. But anyways, the Nets without Durant this season, they are 23-9, so can easily still carry the load. The 4 games so far without Harden for his ankle injury, they are 3-1. Just shows tonight. I wanted to talk about tonight a little bit. They whooped up on a good Pelicans team tonight with Zion back in the lineup. They whooped up on them. And it wasn't just the
Whoa,
guys. I think.
whoa. I'm gonna interject. I don't think Brandon Ingram was playing tonight, bro.
Yeah, I didn't
No,
say him.
that's not a fully loaded Pelicans team.
I
Then
didn't say
you're
fully
missing
loaded.
an
I
all-star
said a
caliber
good
player.
Pelican. I said a good Pelicans team.
No, bro. This is a Pelicans team that without Brandon Ingram, they don't make the playoffs. They're
Bro, they
already
still
sitting
lost by
in
like
the
30 tonight.
they're already sitting in the 11th seed spot in the West. You take out Brandon Ingram, they're just one team that's better than the Timberwolves.
Yeah. Okay, but we've talked a lot about the role players for Brooklyn, all right, and how Griffin was washed up, and Aldridge ain't that big of a difference maker. Okay, Aldridge had 22 tonight, so the dude can still ball. Blake Griffin, I roasted him hardcore last night. We both did on our players we talked about were overrated. He still put up 10. I mean, Joe Harris put up 14. So I mean, even with one or two of the superstars out, that team more times than not can still win. They can still carry it. Guys step up. I think Durant, he came off the bench. I think he played 17 minutes or something like that, and he shot perfect from the field. Like, he didn't miss a shot, and he still put up, I don't know, 16, something like that. Like he still put up
So is
that and
that
shot
their
perfect.
strategy? Is that the Nets strategy? Is to play Kevin Durant off the bench going forward because that's how you blow
Well,
teams
no,
out.
but that's how you
Let's have
do.
Kevin Durant
That's
come
what
off
you
the
do.
bench.
That's what you do when he's coming off an injury where he's missed 3-4 months.
He's going.
And I just want to
He's
throw out
always
too
coming
with
off an injury here lately, bro. They
well
ain't got
with
much
with
time before the end of the season.
well yeah, and there's only been 7 games. All three guys have played together, and they're 5-2. But I just wanted to touch on that. But yeah, I mean the Nets, it might be losing chemistry, something we've talked about here for playoffs. But I said my piece then, and I still feel the same way now. I think that they are experienced enough, veteran enough, and obviously these guys are supposedly know their roles. I'm sure they've talked about what they're going to do when all three of them on the court. So yeah, they might be losing chemistry, something that could affect them a little bit in the playoffs. But let's say Durant gets hurt again, or Harden's injuries out longer. Maybe one of these guys gets hurt in the playoffs, miss a little time. This team can still do it. The Lakers, they can't. I mean, you see with AD out, they're 2 games above 500. Um, and that's good and all, but that's not going to win you a 7-game series, in my opinion. I mean, LeBron's clutch, we all know that, but without AD, that team is mediocre. And it's without LeBron and AD, that team is below average, below average. That team isn't even a playing team, in my opinion, without either of those guys. So I mean, one of those two guys are missing for the Lakers. I don't give them a shot. Now not the Clippers, excuse me, the Nets. I could have maybe even two of those guys being out for injury or rest or whatever, and then they still having a chance to win on any given night. So no, I think and plus the Nets have just gone up in the standings. They're first. They won tonight, so they're first in the East. And since then, the Lakers are reeling. They're fifth currently. They've been going dropping. So yeah, I think it's obvious that the Lakers are hurting worse at the moment.
Yeah, at the moment, it looks like the Lakers are hurting the worst.
They
But
are hurting
overall
worse.
here, they're hurting the worst in your opinion right now. But you said it yourself. You said one thing that stood out to me. LeBron is clutch. LeBron is clutch when it comes to playoffs. All we need is a rested LeBron. This is the thing I'm telling everybody that's listening here outside of the podcast. You don't want to see a rested LeBron. He does not have that serious of an injury. It's not something that's going to set his progress back. Yeah, he may come back rusty and need to get his shots in, his conditioning in, but there's nothing here that's going to really prohibit his ability to be the playmaker, the scorer, the LeBron effect that's on the court by the time playoffs come. This, if nothing else, motivates the Lakers when they get in a hole. Like you said, LeBron is clutch. The worst thing that could happen is if AD misses the rest of the year, but outside of that, just looking at them possibly returning later on in the season and LeBron catching back up on his off of his injury and catching back up on his conditioning. Dude, yeah, the Lakers won't have anything to worry about. We've seen LeBron on the Eastern Conference come back, be a team that ends up in like the first seed and still make it to the NBA Finals. It's the Nets who are hurting the worst. The Brooklyn Nets. I got one number for you, Hugh. 7. What's that mean to you?
It's Kevin Durant's number.
That is Kevin Durant's number. But I'm referring to the games played by the big 3. 7.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Kevin Durant's come back. That's good. It helps the team. You need them on the court. But guess what? You also need all 3 of these guys on the court. And they've only played a total of 7 games so far this season, unless they continue this trend in the playoffs where there's only 2 of them playing each game. It's going to be rough for them. They're hurting the worst. Yeah, the record shows that they're number 1 in the East. You're doing what you need to do in the regular season. I'll give you props for that. But when it comes time for the playoffs and you don't have that experience and that team chemistry going, and it's all a roller coaster because it's all firsthand experiments, that's when you're going to see. That's when you come back to this video and you're like, you know what? These dudes were making sense. I was making sense. That's how I'm going to feel about it because, this thing can easily blow up in their faces. Don't get me wrong. 2 of these guys at the time is a great duo against any team, but in the playoffs, it might not be enough. You need all 3.
Man, tell me something, D. Tell me something. Let's say Nets and Lakers in the East, in the finals, right? Let's say they're in the finals, okay? LeBron.
Oh,
AD's
no. You know my thoughts about
I'm asking a hypothetical. Here. LeBron, AD, both fully healthy. Durant, Harden, Kyrie, that whole team fully healthy. How you telling me LeBron and AD themselves going to stop Kyrie, KD, Harden, Aldridge, Griffin, Joe Harris? How you telling me that's going to happen? It ain't going to happen.
No, how do you tell me how the Brooklyn Nets are going to stop all the Lakers? You're just talking about 2 guys.
That's 2 guys.
This is LeBron James. All right, let me refer to when they played against y'all, when LeBron was missing his 2 All-Stars in 2015 going against the Golden State Warriors playing for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Matthew Dellavedova was a household name if you were watching the NBA Finals. Matthew Dellavedova was perhaps the 2nd or 3rd best player on that finals team with LeBron. You could throw in J.R. Smith. We know who J.R. Smith is, but where's Matthew Dellavedova now? He's not even in the league, bro. But you knew him then. That's what I'm saying. This is LeBron. You have to consider the LeBron effect. The LeBron effect is that he makes players around him more elevated. He makes them better.
Hey,
look at last season.
Kyle Kuzma go start making shots?
Look at last season. Look at how Caldwell Pope was during the regular season. Even myself was like, man, I can't believe they kept him. And then what did he do in the playoffs? He stepped up. If you're going to be a confident enough shooter and you can shoot the ball and that's all you're asked to do, he's going to find you. Yeah, Kuzma, he might be missing shots now, but I'd rather for him to get that out now. Get your shots out, do whatever stupid mistakes you're doing, work on your game. But because when they come back, they're gonna know who to give the ball to. You listen to go down to the coach, you listen to Frank Vogel. Frank Vogel's over here talking about, yeah, Gasol is playing great for us right now, but our priority is to get Andre Drummond the most amount of minutes. So when he returns, he's going back to starting center. There's no disputing that. He's making the statement plain and simple to not only Marc Gasol personally, but to the press and the media. Don't ask me these questions. I'm telling you now, this is what's going to happen because this is what we signed Andre Drummond here to do. There's no confusion there. There's no hurting people's personalities. This is the game plan. You're either on board for it or you're not, but there's no confusion. On the other hand, how many times do I have to say this? The Brooklyn Nets have stated they don't need a coach. They don't need a coach.
That was in the off season.
Yeah. So how does that build any chemistry with your coaching staff going into the season?
Obviously, you're starting off, bro. Look at him,
bro. I'm not going to keep explaining this to you, but I'll say it again. These are duos we're seeing. It's easier to do it with duos. There's no pressure because there's no third superstar there. You have to understand the roles of three superstars. For example, Kevin Durant's last year with the Golden State Warriors. I mentioned this before. When he was there and he was feeling salty about the press that Steph Curry was getting versus the press he was not receiving, and then the disputes between him and Draymond, yeah, Steph Curry and Klay could do their things, but then you have the emotional drama of what's going on with Draymond and Durant. Media tries to spin that around. They're getting each other's hits. They're being their own distraction from their games. They, eventually straighten that out. But that's because it happened during the regular season when all of them were on the floor. What's going to happen if they don't get much playing time in Brooklyn on the floor, and then these big three, they're in a situation down the line in the playoffs where they're playing a 7-game series and it's falling apart? You're going to look at your coach now and say, hey, coach, what have you been working on all season? What plays you got drawn up for us? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you needed me now. That's why this is what's important. This is what is going to determine how far the Nets get, is how much playing time and how much of situational parts of the game that these big three can share. They have not shared very much. None at all, in my opinion, because, even with these blowout wins, yeah, they're impressive with duos. But like I said, when you throw in that third personality, not just that third player, this is not 2K we're talking about where, let's just have James Harden stand in the corner and if he shoots threes, he shoots threes. You talking humans here, people that, hey, after the game, like I said, what if they lose game one in their playoffs? It's not that they couldn't win the series, but what's the media going to do? They're going to turn around and spin that story. And if some of these guys can't tolerate what the media says about them already, how's that going to impact how they play down the line or how they get along with each other? Each one of them going to feel like, you know what? I got to take over this game. I got to take over this game. I got to take over this game. That's the mentality going in. What team chemistry is there? You look at the Lakers, you go back to their side. Yeah, they need their players back, but they know who their leaders are. They know the chain of command. They know it's LeBron James followed by Anthony Davis. They know Andre Drummond's there for a reason. They know that, hey, Montrezl Harrell's coming off the bench. He's the sixth man, of the year from last year. They know their roles. They're missing big chunks, but they know their roles. So going forward, they should be able to pick that up and along the way acclimate Andre Drummond. I would argue that part that, yeah, they need to be there to help Drummond come along as far as fit. But outside of that, that's one guy. We're talking 3 guys still. 7 games. 7 games.
All right. We'll agree to disagree on that one, but I got a question for you.
What's
You
the
listen?
question? Yeah, I'm listening.
There you go. Are the Nets the team to beat in the East?
That's the next question. No.
So you got Philly?
I got Philly.
I'm just asking. So all right. So what's your reasoning on it?
Oh, you just want to go straight into me?
Go
Okay.
into it,
Well,
bro.
the
I
reason
disagree,
why
obviously. That's why I was asking about Philly. So yeah, you go in.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you could argue that the Nets are the team to beat in the East because, yeah, they have the most talent. But the Nets, to me, have to prove a lot more. So I don't feel like they are necessarily the team to beat in the East. They're the team that needs to be in the number 1 seed in the East in order to be more safe to make it further down the line. It's the Sixers. You got to hope for an injury to Joel Embiid, to be honest. If you're the Brooklyn Nets, that's your best hope for that. And like I said, you need to hope that you stay at number 1. You slip down to a number 2 and potentially face the Bucks in the second round. This is the Bucks. Yeah, we saw them possibly take an embarrassing loss last year, if that's what you want to call it, when they got rooted out by the Nets. I'm sorry, the Miami Heat there. But you're talking about this season with Drew Holiday there, with that defense and that length on the floor. Yeah, Kevin Durant's a bad dude. I give him that. At times very unguardable by virtually anybody, but he's only one dude. So now you're talking about these other 3 guys. And don't think that Drew Holiday can't guard James Harden. And Kyrie, like I said, he's a heck of a player, but Brooklyn's got that length. It's going to be harder for him to finish at the rim. And I'm not saying that it wouldn't be a blowout either way, but I'm just saying that's a tough series. Even making it past that, that's a battle. So you better hope that you don't have to face them and or the 76ers in order for you to make it to the finals. But, I don't want to go into a whole spill as far as other Eastern Conference teams, but let's say they go out against the Miami Heat. We saw what they did to the Bucks last year. They're a smart team. They're very aggressive when it comes to defense. They will pick whoever's the worst player on the team and tear them apart as far as who's on the floor at that time. As far, I shouldn't say the worst player on the team, but the worst of the big 3 as far as matchups. They could get under your skin and quick in a hurry. They could make those guys turn on each other. That's scary to think about. Nobody talks about the Heat. Nobody talks about the Heat, but they've been climbing up the ranks. Jimmy Butler's, he's getting over that bubble fatigue. Bam Adebayo is getting over that bubble fatigue. You watch out for these guys. They're hungry. They went to the finals last year. I know Kyrie and Durant's played in the finals. Like I said, it's going to take an awful lot from these guys in the whole 7-game series, each series. But you got some other teams there. They're hungry. And yeah, like I said, it almost sounds like I'm arguing that the Nets are the team to beat. But to me, Philly is the team to beat. You want to get Philly knocked out as early as you can because I got them going to the finals. I'm worried for the Nets fans.
I mean, you make decent points, a few things of what you said there, but I mean, I'm gonna have to disagree with you, man. I think Brooklyn is without a doubt the team to beat in the East, man. I mean, speaking of Philly, because I think they're the biggest threat to them. You were talking about last night, overrated list. Ben Simmons was on your list. He wasn't even on mine. So, I mean, I took a note about Simmons. In 2 of his last 6 games, he scored in single digits, and he hasn't even scored 20 points in a game since over 6 games ago. So, I mean, I don't want to say he's regressing. Maybe they don't need his scoring as much right now, but I mean, they're still winning games, so you can't say that much. But I mean, the dude, I know they got Embiid back, and that's huge, and they're a totally different team with Embiid out. But I mean, Simmons, man, I think a lot of it depends on Simmons, how well they play. They're going to need him to pick up some slack, and I think it's going to hurt them playing against these good teams in a 7-game series without him being able to stretch the floor. I know he's a mismatch advantage, inside, and I know the dude's great. I'm not bashing him, but I mean, that's just the guy to me. Embiid's going to do whatever he wants every night. 30, 40 points a game every night if he wants. But I mean, he could very well get injured too. We were talking about the injuries to the Lakers and the Nets. I mean, Embiid's a guy with an injury history, and I mean, all it takes is for him to go down, and I see them getting swept by any of these teams. To be honest with you, these top teams in the East. But yeah, I mean, just back what I touched on a little bit ago. I mean, Nets. I mean, yeah, you talk about the chemistry with all 3 of the guys, and their role and all that, and I get that, and those are good points. But I mean, like I've said numerous times, these guys are professionals. They all know what they got joining up together. Harden wanted to go to Brooklyn. He knew why he was going to be part of this team. These 3 superstar team. I mean, I just feel like, yeah, these guys might get their feelings hurt every now and then if they're not the one taking the last shot. But I mean, it is what it is, man. If you're trying to win a chip, like these guys say they are, like they should be trying to do, like everybody expects them to, then I mean, they have to know their role to some extent. And while I'm sure they've only played 7 games together, I mean, I just think it's stuff they talk about, man. I think that, these guys are close. They're on the same team. They can't wait to get on the floor together. I think it's going to be better when they get on the floor together. I think you think it might be worse. I think it'll just be better, man. I mean, yeah, their numbers are all probably dip some because I think all these guys, I mean, 20 points or more a game, I could see. I mean, I just think they'll spread the ball around, man. I don't think they'll be the way you're describing it. I mean, I could see it happen. I can see a scenario where it happens, but I just don't see it. I don't see it, man. I mean, they know how short their window is. I mean, maybe like this year and next year they might have this team, and then after that, man, I mean, they might have to, get rid of somebody, or I don't know how their salary cap is or everything, because they're going to get like the Warriors after a while, and they're not going to have any bench at all. And I know that Brooklyn's bench isn't the greatest as is, so I mean that's something to look out for too. But I mean, I just think they're the best team in the East, and they're not even fully healthy at probably any point this year, to be honest, besides 7 games. And I still think even then, they've always been the best team in the East. So I think, the healthier they get, the better they're going to be. And yeah, Philly is a good team. And I could see a series with them going to 6 or 7 games. But I mean, still, that's the only team that worries me a lot. You touch on Milwaukee. Milwaukee's a good team, especially, with Giannis and the way he's playing. But I mean, I like their matchups going against him. I know Drew Holiday's an amazing defender, Giannis an amazing defender, but I mean, I just think Brooklyn. That's why you got a big 3 like that. That's why you got Aldridge. I mean, if Giannis is stuffing KD, if Kyrie or Harden can't shoot because Drew Holiday's on him, I mean, you got Griffin can pick it up a little bit. Aldridge, we saw him tonight, 22. I mean, they have guys like that can step up, and so I just think they're the favorite to come out of the East, and I think any team you're talking about teams don't want to look at play like Miami. I think teams shouldn't want to play the Nets. They should be terrified to go up against the Nets. It's my opinion.
Yeah, well, you just touched on, you're saying why they should be terrified of the Nets, but you just touched on them not being healthy for most of the season. Will we ever see them healthy this season? Because that is a big factor.
Even if they're not, look at them. They're still first. Even if they're not.
You need all 3 of these guys when it comes to playoffs. All 3 of them. And the Sixers, they have X factors, and we're going to get to that later on when it gets closer to the playoffs. We're going to do a video. Make sure y'all stay tuned for that down the road, where we go over the X factors for each playoff team as it gets closer. But Brooklyn doesn't have that many X factors for me. Yeah, maybe Aldridge, but the Sixers are loaded with X factors.
What about Joe Harris?
He's not an X factor. What you see is what you get from Joe Harris. If he's an X factor, then Steph Curry is the same X factor for the for the 76ers. So that cancels out there. You know who's an X factor for the Sixers?
You about to say Danny Green, bro?
No, but I could say Danny Green. The X factor is Shake Milton. If y'all don't know who Shake Milton is, look up that guy. He can ball. He comes off the bench and he can score. And he plays the point guard, so he can also pass. But he is a scorer off the bench, along with what the other weapons they have off the bench. You have the personality of Dwight Howard. He just won a chip. Yeah, you have Danny Green. I think he starts most of the time. He has a chip. These guys also have experience. They might not be the high-profile players of Kyrie and Durant as far as guys on the Brooklyn team with chips, but these guys have chips. Their coach has a chip. These are X factors for them that's going to contribute in the 7-game series. And then just to also mention, when you talked about how I mentioned Ben Simmons was an overrated player, I did make a plug in the last episode when we did the overrated players that I thought Tobias Harris was an underrated player that we forgot to mention. So look out for Tobias Harris, another guy who can score, and he's a pretty good defender when he needs to be. So Philly's loaded with X factors. And you're talking about the Bucks again. Yeah, you like what Giannis is doing, but what Drew Holiday is adding to that, this is the Bucks team that's been great the last 2 seasons, and then they upgraded their ball handling position. They upgraded their front line of defense. Upgrades. They did not get worse. The Philadelphia 76ers, from the course of last year to this year, did not get worse. We're not talking about Brooklyn going against, in the first round, the Boston Celtics, who are struggling. That's not the problem. It's not, oh, okay, well, when the big 3 comes and they play the Boston Celtics in the first round. No, it's after the first round.
Brooklyn, hey, you talking about those 2 teams got better. Brooklyn got Harden, Aldridge, and Griffin. They're better.
They're better on paper. They were better when they signed Kyrie and Durant last year, but Durant didn't play. Durant's only played a handful of games for Brooklyn. James Harden, Durant, and Kyrie combined have only played 7 games together for Brooklyn. We have yet to see how much better they play together. Yes, they have a better record. You look at the stats, you look at the standings, you look at the names. If that's what you're looking at, then yes, obviously they are the favorites overall. But that's not the only factors. You have to throw in other factors. This is not a Brooklyn Nets team that's already been playing together between the two of Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. This is not James Harden joining the Golden State Warriors in 2015, bro. This is not it. This is a whole new team. Yeah, he's played with Kevin Durant before, but he hasn't played with Kyrie. And Kyrie's been a teammate of Durant, but hadn't played very many games with him. He hasn't played with Harden until now. And yeah, he let Harden take over his role as the point guard. But like I said, again, duos. We need the big three. We need the trio. We've yet to see very much of that. So I'm on the outside looking in, I guess, because I want to see them prove it. I just don't want to look at paper and say, yes, this is guaranteed, based off what we saw with the Clippers duo last year, where it looked like they were a lock to make it to the Western Conference Finals. And guess what? It wasn't enough depth for them. So hopefully that's not the case with Brooklyn, because they're lacking on depth. It's just plain and simple. That's going to be a hindrance for them. But enough about Brooklyn. I feel like we're going to keep continuing this. We're probably going to have to do a part 2 of this. You know, if y'all like our videos, give us a thumbs up. If you haven't subbed, please sub. And that way you can keep track and turn your notifications on when we do more videos. But here, I want to get into the next question. We're going back to the West. We're going back to LA. We're going back to the Lakers. Are the Lakers the team to go through to get out of the West?
Nope. I don't think so. I don't think so. Okay, with a healthy AD and LeBron, I think they have a valid argument. Any team that LeBron's on is healthy, I think has a shot, especially with AD. But I mean, here's the thing, man. I mean, AD, he's missed a lot of games, and I mean, I think there's only 20-some games left or something like that till playoffs start. This dude still doesn't have a timetable. They're not even like another month. I mean, the dude still doesn't have a timetable. So, I mean, I could honestly see him, dude, missing some going to the playoffs. I mean, to be honest, and that's not something you wanted to see as a Lakers fan. I mean, they're currently 5th in the West. You know, they were 3rd, and then LeBron's went down and they dropped 2 spots. So I mean, you know, LeBron come back. If he comes back early enough in the season, I expect that to rise a little more.
I would agree with what you're saying on Anthony Davis. Yeah, you know, there's no timetable there, but I think what the Lakers are doing is very smart move, because they're not putting pressure on AD. They're not putting pressure on the media to keep saying how close is AD as far as making this exact date. Yeah, they can keep asking, but as far as when he returns, yeah, it might be down the road in the playoffs. We don't want to see AD have a KD accident where they get him back because they feel like, oh, we need you right now, and then it ruins the rest of the season, and then possibly going in the next season. If it is an Achilles injury or a complete tear or rip in that, then he's out. He's done for. So the Lakers definitely have to take their time with AD, and I do agree with that. But at the same time, the Lakers are playing it smart by not rushing him back.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that. But my thing is, what if he's playoff time and he's like, man, you know, I still don't feel 100% going in the playoffs without AD. That would worry me being a Lakers fan. And one thing I want to, something else I want to touch on here. How long are we going to keep up this Utah slander? Everybody, not just us, everybody, man. I mean, the team has, you know, been first in the NBA since the start of the season, pretty much. And they just wrote it. Nobody's gotten close to them. So I'm like, man, you look at names, you know, Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell. We've talked about them a lot lately on this podcast. But I mean, you know, those guys aren't LeBron and AD. You know, they're not those high-profile names. But look at that team, man. They've got no injuries. They've got no COVID things. Those guys are healthy. They're balling. I mean, man, the slander, man. It's just like they're forgotten.
I would have to agree with that, because, you know, those are points I mentioned before. No injuries, no COVID. Team chemistry is on lock. But I have to give the respect to the Lakers, because they're not only the Western Conference defending champions, they're the defending champions of the league. So you have to go through them. It's no different than the Golden State Warriors. You have to go through them unless they have a huge drop-off in personnel in the court. Like you said, Anthony Davis might be missing, but we know LeBron is clutch. You know, we know LeBron's good for a first round. You know, if he's got one decent player with them, I don't think the conference matters. He's already in the West. He's been in the West for several seasons now. Last year being his first playoff season in the West. I don't think a first round is going to be a problem with them. Now granted, if they slip down and have to play the Jazz the first round, they're going to need AD and everybody else. But if they're in the middle of the pack, I mean, it's LeBron James. We're going to just have to see greatness from him, and we're going to have to command it and expect it. And, he's liable to show up and do that at least in the first round. So, you're talking LeBron and Drummond. I think he can get it done in the first round if it's not against the Jazz or possibly the Denver Nuggets. Phoenix, I think he can get it done.
That's what I wanted to get into next.
I think he get it done against Phoenix. I was actually
going to touch on Denver.
But yeah. I mean, the Lakers, I have to give them their respect because the Lakers are holding the last title. You have to go through them in order to get out the West as far as, okay, if they're not in the Western Conference Finals, wherever they're at, they have to be knocked out because, like, as you said, and as I'm saying, if you put the two together, if AD is missing time, and then on the other scenario, along with that, if LeBron is there, but he makes it past the first round, you got to hope and wonder, like, okay, is AD coming back for that second round, and how would he play? If AD's playing half decent, then can they make it through the second round? And that's a great possibility there because it's 7-game series. So then let's say by the time they make it to the third round, the conference finals, if AD seems to be holding up, Drummond's playing really good ball, and LeBron's LeBron as far as his playoff mode, there you go again, how they make it that far. LeBron, ever since that crucial Dallas Mavericks series where, obviously, he just crumbled there. LeBron has not been the same since when it comes to playoff basketball, has not been the same since. You might want to bring up the Spurs series when he lost against the Spurs in 2014 when he had cramps. He adjusted again. He slimmed down, he toned down, he went to Cleveland and got to work. This guy knows how to win, and he knows how to uplift the rest of his teammates along the way. So yeah, AD is the biggest X factor here when it comes to the Lakers repeating or anything like that. But if you see AD there with the Lakers, you got to go through the Lakers. The Lakers have to be knocked out in order for it to feel like, okay, now the West could be anybody's.
Yeah. And one thing with AD too, let's say he comes back in playoff time, he's missed a lot of basketball. He's probably going to start off a little rusty. So, yeah, hopefully you ain't got to play a team. Even if he is playing, maybe, like, hopefully they don't stay, fifth or maybe drop to sixth, because then maybe, the chance of them having to play Utah or Denver in the first round. And, I mean, AD might be there, but, I mean, the dude ain't played in 6 months. I mean, he's going to be rusty. So, I mean, it's just something to look out for. And that's another team I wanted to touch on. You start talking about is Denver. Denver is starting to get scary, man. And I know you talk a lot about Denver, but, I mean, Jamal Murray's balling. Yeah, you heard it here. Jamal Murray's balling. Jokic, probably front runner for MVP right now. Aaron Gordon has came in there and fit in perfectly with that team. Michael Porter Jr., I mean, that team is loaded, and they have great team chemistry. And that team, that'd be a team I would watch out for in the West too, man. They get rolling like they are, and I think they could be a hard team to beat, man.
Oh, they're definitely going to be a tough challenge. We saw what they did last year. I mean, that could have easily been the Utah Jazz that did the same thing that Denver Nuggets did last year. I mean, these are two offensive powerhouses, and, defense is no joke either. So, yeah, I definitely give them their respects, but I'm not looking at either one of those teams as the team to go through to get out of the West.
Yeah, I mean, right now, if I had to go on a team, I'd have to say Utah. I mean, Utah, yeah. I mean, I don't think they're not just getting the best record in the league to lose in the playoffs. I think their mind frame's good, and I mean the Lakers, yeah. I'm not hating on the Lakers, man. They get both those guys healthy, and I expect from them at least Western Conference Finals. But I mean, with LeBron healthy, AD healthy, I wouldn't be surprised at all with them going to the finals. But if I had to make a prediction right now, I got Utah.
And I'm not trying to be a hypocrite as far as between the Lakers and the Nets, how I kind of abuse the Nets there for not having all three play at the same time because of health purposes, but then depending on the Lakers in a more positive light of them being healthy going into the playoffs. But like I said, once again, it's the team chemistry. We know what LeBron and AD can do together when healthy. We just don't know what all three of these guys will do when they're healthy. We know what they can do as individuals or as duos as far as points and stats for the Nets, but what can they do together when it comes to adversity? You know what I mean? Like not just going out there and balling on raggedy teams. I want to see them, what can they overcome when it comes to, unforeseen things that's going to put them on edge. But yeah, with the Lakers, what's the scary part about them is, yeah, they still have to get Andre Drummond acclimated, but he's not like a Kevin Durant or James Harden type of player where they're depending on him to score. They're bringing him in more so for rebounding and defense. And we know that's how the Lakers did so well last year in the regular season and the playoffs, their defense. They were going against a full charge Jamal Murray. His energy might have been down some, but he was riding some adrenaline there. But we knew what he was doing and scoring in every series, even some then in that series, but not as much. But you're talking the defense. That's what the Lakers are banking on, is defense. Whereas I feel on the other side, the Nets are depending on offense. So offense on the East and defense on the West. That determines who makes it as far as they're going to make it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And hey, moving on, I think we will keep it rolling. But I mean, I know we wanted to talk about MVP on this debate episode, and we wanted to talk maybe about Damian Lillard, being either of our MVPs. And I know it's a debate episode, so we'll
go ahead.
Kind of expecting
to a short plug.
Yeah, we're. What do you mean a short plug?
Yeah, like you said, a short finish up because we basically just did Lakers and Nets. Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but yeah, I know we wanted to throw that in at the end of this episode, but I think we both kind of agreed on it, so it shouldn't take long. I'll just go ahead and state my case, and you can follow behind. My MVP is not Damian Lillard. It's not Joel Embiid. It is Jokic. Before Embiid's injury, it was Embiid, but he went down and missed some time, and Jokic kind of took over, and he kind of put it in my mind that he deserves MVP, and I think he did that with a lot of others. And I was looking up stuff about Jokic, and I actually saw something that's extremely impressive to me. So right, this was the shortest offseason in NBA history. I know they didn't go to the finals, so they don't have it as short as Miami or the Lakers, but I think they made it to what, conference finals, didn't they?
Yeah.
Or did? Yeah. So I mean, a pretty short offseason still, and Jokic hasn't missed a single game all season. Not
That's
one game
impressive.
He's missed. That's extremely impressive. I had no idea that. So I mean, that blew my mind. Not one game, man. But I mean, yeah, he's just.
Well, we also saw
averaging,
last year. We saw LeBron go on a tear last year where he didn't miss very many games. I can't remember how many he may have missed, but he made it through a lot of games last year and still didn't come up with the hardware. So yeah, I mean, I know we both talked about Dame not getting it, but this is a debate, so I'm gonna have to go on the other side and say that Dame, should be favored for the MVP just because of what he consistently does. I know it's supposed to be based off the season, but this dude has been doing this the last several years. We got to respect this dude's clutchness, his ability to score and in pressure situations is unbelievable. Like it's crazy, man. Like it makes you think like, dude, why is this dude not mentioned as much? It's like he is the Utah Jazz in one person. That's Damian Lillard right there. That same underdog, never getting enough acknowledgement and recognition. He should be in MVP discussion. And why not be an MVP in this league? This guy, if Harden can do it, then why can't Damian Lillard get the MVP? Yeah, I see what you're saying about Jokic. Some arguments I can make against him is that he's playing with a high caliber player and Jamal Murray or at cases, what's his name? Michael Porter Jr. Sorry. I know his name, but I forgot there. But, he's got CJ McCollum. And like you said before, he's held it down while he was out for X amount of months. And, they're waiting on Nurkic to come back. So, yeah, you have to consider that, hopefully he doesn't take too far of a step back as far as, resting for the playoffs. But he's kept the team where they needed to be. And now he's trying to work with his teammates returning and get this team straight and healthy for the playoffs and make a push, hopefully past the first round this year. So, yeah, just definitely a dangerous guy on any given night, TV night, non-TV night. It doesn't matter if he's on national TV or not. This guy will knock down a big shot. This guy can put up shots in a hurry if you need them. He's not afraid of a challenge. Even if he's having an off night, he's still going to shoot. He's not going to back down. He is not Kyle Kuzma. but this guy is definitely worth consideration of MVP. So just an argument's sake, I would say that I favor Dame right now for MVP because he's a guard. Yeah, so he's not going to necessarily get all those big stats all the time. I mean, it took Russell Westbrook to average a triple double for like the second season to get an MVP, I think it was. But yeah, it's just crazy that he keeps getting overlooked. Like I say, he's finally been mentioned as one of the top ranked players in the league as far as MVP consideration. But yeah, I'm a shout out to Dame, shout out to Portland Trailblazers fans, shout out to Zach Hammer, and shout out to the Tavern Geek podcast over there. You can find me over there sometimes. Tavern Geek. He also has a Twitter and a Instagram under the same name. Also, shout out to Your Bud 36. Catch him on Twitter. He's a gamer. We hope to have him on our next recording as a special guest. Hugh, any shout outs?
Just shout out anyone watching this video. We appreciate all the views, but yeah, we really like likes and subs. So, if you like the video, sub, no tomatoes.
Oh, I like that. I got you. That's clever. Sub,
Yeah.
no tomatoes. Hey, deliver this dude a sub, please. And yeah, thank y'all for the new subs because I'm not sure exactly who they were, but we just jumped up a couple more subs. I like it. I mean, apparently some other people are liking it. So like I said, again, if you're new to the channel, look at some of our videos. And if you like it, sub and turn those notification bells on and catch us when we do some new releases. Also, shout out again to Lucky and Big Daddy on the Fillin' Lucky podcast. It's called Fillin', FELLIN, no G, Lucky, LUCKY, pod, POD, Fillin' Lucky pod. Those guys are cool. I met them while doing a episode on the Tavern Geek podcast. So shout out to those two guys, Lucky and Nick. Thank you for doing that with us that day. So everybody stay tuned and catch us on the next one. Once again, this has been Kicking in the Second Half. KISH YZ, peace and love.